Yo, Big C in the house. You know the name. Finn Posse Podcast. Changing the game. Fins up high. Feel the aqua and orange. Miami heat blazing. We scorching the floor. Marino the tour. We stacking the saga. Legacy deep, call it football nirvana. Big C, break it down, got the stats in his veins. Play-by-play knowledge like he's calling the chains. Fins flying on the field, opponents feel the blast. Tyreek cheetah speed, leaving DBs in the past. Waddle with the wiggle, defense with the clamp. Aqua drip so clean, whole squash the champ. Tune in, Big C, got the mic on lock. Finn Posse Podcast, it's the cream of the crop. Breaking news, hot takes, repping the block. For the Dolphin faithful, it's the one-stop shop. Finn Posse. We the voice of the fans. Miami stand tall, got the world in our hands. Best podcast, yo, ain't no debate. Big C, big vibes, setting it straight. Defense smash, call it Aqua Tsunami. X locking routes like a South Beach Armani. O-line holding strong, trenches like a fortress. Big C dissected, no stack goes dormant.
Try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain. Pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane. Pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less. You check as I'm chess, what's happening next? You got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second.
What up, Finn fans? Welcome to another episode of the Finn Posse Podcast. Brought to you by Game Changers Media. I am your host, Big C. How is everyone doing on this gloomy Saturday up here in upstate New York? Hopefully the weather's better wherever you guys are. How is everyone doing? Good morning. Lewis, good morning, brother. I was checking you guys' podcast out, or your forum on X yesterday. a lot of interesting takes. And listen, I respect everybody's take on this football team. You're a fan just like I am. Who knows what's right, what's wrong? Obviously, we know that changes need to be made to this franchise, because what's going on isn't working. You know, the Tua experiment, I would say that most people are ready to move on from Tua Tagovailoa, and I can't blame you for feeling that way, because I feel like that also. I've tried to support Tua, and at this point, after the amount of time we've given him, the contract that we've given him, I just feel like it's best for us to move on and to explore other options. Now, for the people out there that say, you know, it's time for Zach Wilson, this, that, and the third, listen, you know, I understand that the Jets have a bad history with quarterbacks, you know, but just because you have a Geno Smith that came out and ended up being a serviceable quarterback, you had Sam Darnold end up being a serviceable quarterback, doesn't mean that every Jets quarterback is going to be something somewhere else. And I just don't have any faith in Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's got a terrific right arm. He can make every throw. I just don't think he has it between the ears, personally. But good morning, Lewis. Good morning, Anthony. Cheetah, good morning. Cheetah says they're all expendable. Misery for the ones that have to stay. If they keep Greer, keep them all and run it back for another decade. Well, I think that's the biggest thing right there is that before any player gets traded or we move on from any player, I feel like you need to move on from Chris Greer. Now, some people might not feel that way. Some people might feel that, Chris Greer built a winning franchise in 2023 and, Tua is the cause of all the misery for this football team. I don't personally believe that. I think Tua, obviously Tua played his part in that, but I'm not a fan of Chris Greer. I think Chris Greer has made way more mistakes than he has positive moves for the Miami Dolphins. Now, he brought Tyreek Hill here. Tyreek Hill is my favorite current Dolphin. I'm sad that he's hurt. I'm sad that we're gonna probably move on from Tyreek. And Chris Greer's made some positive moves, but his neglecting of the offensive line, I can't forgive that. Him neglecting the secondary this year, I cannot forgive that. The fact that you drafted a undersized, injury-prone quarterback at number 5, as much blame as everybody wants to put on Tua, Tua didn't draft himself. Big C, what are your thoughts on this trade? We send Jalen Waddle to the Giants and we get Kayvon Thibodeau in a second and a fourth. Anthony, I honestly that don't sound too bad, I guess. But I'm hearing that Waddle's trade value is a 3rd round pick. And I don't think there's with the financial responsibility we have to Jalen Waddle, I don't think there's a world that you can trade Jalen Waddle for a 3rd round pick. First off, I don't feel confident that you're going to find a worthy replacement in the 3rd round for Jalen Waddle. Listen, I understand that there's gems found in every round of the NFL draft. Just when you get to that 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, I don't have a high level of confidence in you find a good player in those rounds. I'd rather use those picks as ammunition to trade up in the first 3 rounds because that's where the gems are truly. Now, yes, I know there's Tom Brady who was drafted in those late rounds, Antonio Brown, countless other players drafted in later rounds of the NFL draft. I just don't think there's a high probability of there's not a high success rate of it happening. Octane, what's up? Justin, what's up? You giving Tua the it's not you, it's me talk. Alva, good morning. Not between the ears or in bones. To me, he's not only physically weak, he's a slow mover. He's lacking fire in his life. Immediately Pup is mean or bites. Greer is a decent scout, but terrible at team building, assuming he truly made all those GM decisions. Octane says, keeping Achane, Waddle, Ali, Washington. You're not putting Patrick Paul in there, Octane? You're not keeping Achane in there? I mean, we brought up the list of draft picks Chris Greer has made over his 10 years as the general manager of the Miami Dolphins. And to be honest, the list isn't very impressive. In my opinion, the list isn't very impressive. Now, the main players that are being talked about being traded away right now are Jalen Phillips. He's on the last year of his deal. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Waddle, and Devon Achane. Those are the 4 main guys being talked about. Jalen Waddle being heavily linked to the New York Giants, which I think it would be a smart move for the New York Giants to pursue Jalen Waddle. But at the same time, what what are you willing to give Jalen Waddle up for, if anything? Should we keep Jalen Waddle? What price are you willing to let Jalen Waddle go for? Is it a second round pick? Does it got to be a first round pick? Lewis says, I'm willing to listen to offers on everyone, but the offers have to be for the right price. I'm not giving guys up for free. And I 100% agree. I listen to offers on everyone. Now, there's certain players that it's just not going to make sense, right? If you come in and offer me a fourth round pick for Kenneth Grant, no way I'm doing that. Kenneth Grant's on a rookie deal. We just spent a first round pick on him. There's no way I'm giving Kenneth Grant up for a fourth, a third, even a second round pick. There's no way I'm moving on from these young kids that soon. Octane says a first and a third for Waddle. I just don't think teams are coming at us. To me, Jalen Waddle is not a number one receiver. Now, I know that's probably an unpopular belief, unpopular opinion, but to me, he's just not in the same realm as a Justin Jefferson, a Jamar Chase. You know, he's just not that type of player. He's a very good player. He's definitely a player that can contribute. He's definitely a solid number 2 wide receiver, but as a number 1, I just don't see it. And to spend a first round pick, to trade a first round pick for a player that's not a true number 1, I don't know if teams are going to be willing to do that. At this point, the fact that we wish we had Liam Eichenberg back is a clear state of protection for any quarterback to be able to perform. And I agree with that, Justin. I agree. Again, have we given Tua Tagovailoa weapons? Yeah, we've given him Tyreek Hill. We've given him Jalen Waddle, Jonnu Smith, now Darren Waller, Devon Achane. So many different weapons we've given Tua Tagovailoa, yet there's only 1 year that we can really say that we gave him a true offensive line. What up, Kat? Good morning. Good morning. And I think the offensive line would do more justice for Tua Tagovailoa than those weapons. We've seen Tua perform with Lee Bowden and, Devontae Parker. And, he played pretty good with those players. He was able to get them the football. Tua's best friend is a successful running game where you can use play action. And we just don't have that type of offensive line. And I know people will say, oh, well, he's one of the least hit quarterbacks. Least pressured quarterbacks. Well, that's because of the system and the scheme. The scheme calls for him to get rid of the ball super quick. So that drops the pressure numbers. You know what I mean? Hopeful says Tua makes some of his worst throws and decisions with time. See, Hopeful, I'm not gonna disagree. I think if Tua has too much time, he does get antsy back there and feels pressed to make a play. But that's not even necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the running game opening up the passing. It's not necessarily even about him having more time to throw the football, because again, it's a quick strike offense. But when those linebackers have to come up and those safeties have to come up to stop the run, that opens up passing lanes for Tua Tagovailoa, and that's when he's successful. Sean says, give us Waddle. The Buffalo Bills definitely need a number 1 receiver. I think Jalen Waddle would be fantastic for Buffalo. I don't think we should trade Jalen Waddle to the Buffalo Bills. I don't believe in interdivision trading. Sean, you'd give up a first for Waddle? Now, the Buffalo Bills giving up a first for Waddle is damn near giving up a second. I just think you need to be overly blown away by a trade for Jalen Waddle because of the salary cap implications against us. 100% definitely need a run game, but that has nothing to do with Tua. We should have the best run game and still desperately need a quarterback. Again, I think we do still need a quarterback, 100%. But you can't say that a successful running game doesn't help the quarterback to play better. Absolutely. We suck at drafting early anyway, so I'm willing to give some capital. Yeah, I'm not for giving Buffalo Bills. I'm not for making the Buffalo Bills better. That's just not something I'm willing to do. But who knows? Who knows? Like I said, first and foremost, I think we need to find a replacement for Chris Grier. Were you going to let Chris Grier be in charge of trading these players away? And if you do let Chris Grier wheel and deal before the trade deadline, I think that says a lot about next year. I think that says a lot about the plan for next year. Because if you're going to have confidence in Chris Grier to mess around with the salary cap, mess around with this team, you would think that I would think that would indicate that Chris Grier is probably safe for next year. And I've said a couple times on here that I truly believe that there's a good chance that Chris Grier keeps his job with the Miami Dolphins next year, and Mike McDaniel is the ultimate fall guy. Now, I've seen a lot of people say that, retool. Because of the salary cap and Tua being under contract, Waddle being under contract, retool for one more year. Try to bring Tyreek back on a cheap deal. Try to build up the offensive line a little bit. Let the rookies get this year under them, and hopefully they come back playing better next year. And maybe make some additions into the secondary. And I could see that being a realistic possibility. Not moving on from Chris Grier or Mike McDaniel or Tua Tagovailoa and just running it back next year. Do I think that's the correct way to go? No, I don't. Changes need to be made. I'm not saying retool. I'm not saying I want to run this back. I'm just saying some people are out there saying this. See, sometimes when I tell you what other people are saying, it automatically becomes that's my belief, and that's not true. That's not true. If I say something that I truly believe, I'll make sure that I got 10 toes to the ground, and I let you know that's how I feel. I mean, do I think those same other people are the reason we are in this mess? Well, I mean, those people, regardless of their opinion, aren't the ones making the decision, so I wouldn't go that far. I think they're in such a bad spot that, I don't agree with it, but I kind of understand them running it back next year. I don't think that's the best way to go with it, but I kind of get it. And I don't think that's the best course of action to take, but you extended Mike McDaniel. Tua's got another year on his contract before we can really do anything with it. You got Waddle's contract that will be devastating to our salary cap next year. You know what I mean? Definition of insanity, doing the same thing over again, expecting different results. Absolutely. Absolutely. Justin says 4 of the 5 losses have been in the last 5 minutes. Defenses has the talent. They need to step up. Well, that's another thing, and that's looking at the glass half full. We're a few plays away from. We're probably 10 plays, 10 to 15 plays, I would say, from being 5-1 on the season. Total 15 plays away from being 5-1. But we're 2 plays away from being 0-6. You know what I mean? So I mean, we could be definitely sitting at a very different position right now. You know what I mean? And I think if we were to retool, and again, I'm not saying that's the correct path to go. I want to see Chris Greer out as soon as possible. I think we could have success. I think if we get some more offensive line help, we address the secondary, our rookies can step up next year. Maybe we find a true defensive tackle, a true nose tackle, that is, or Kenneth Grant steps up. I believe the team could have success. I don't think they'd be Super Bowl contenders, but I think they could compete for a playoff spot. We've seen them compete for a playoff spot, right? But again, I don't think that's the right course of action. I think we're at a low point right now. We're sitting 1-5, one of the worst teams in the NFL. We're playing the Cleveland Browns this weekend, who we're the underdogs. We're the underdogs against the lowly Cleveland Browns, who are averaging 13 points a game this year. And there's a good chance that we lose to the Cleveland Browns, especially with how the weather's supposed to be. They're talking about 30 to 60 mile an hour gusts, heavy rain against a phenomenal defense in Cleveland, where you're going to have to run the football. And our running game is hit and miss. Achane's had some really good games this year, and then he's had some real stinkers. And I'm not putting the blame on Achane. I think it's the inconsistency of our offensive line. But if we're going against the Cleveland Browns and they know we have to run the football, we're probably in for a long day, because we can't stop the run worth a damn. And Judkins looks like he's the real deal. We're giving up 168 yards a game on the ground. That's a recipe for disaster. Mudbone, Tua had a good offensive line in 2023, but then they all got hurt. But when he did have a good offensive line, they were the top offense in all of football. They were the top offense in all of football. But let's take a look at over the cap. And see what trading these players would do to the salary cap. And now, if let's say we were trading Jalen Waddle and his salary got to come right off our books, then I could understand maybe you taking a second or a third round pick for him. But the fact that if we trade Jalen Waddle and we still have to eat a bunch of that money, that's when I think you need more for him than what he's necessarily worth. I didn't want Tyler Warren first round. He's a great player, but again, he's not fixing the issues. Tyler Warren's not fixing the issues of the Miami Dolphins. We can't continue the draft. Yeah, is Tyler Warren a great player? Yes. But what is that doing for our offensive line? What's that doing for our defensive line? And you can say, well, Kenneth Grant's not playing good. Jonah is not playing good. And we expected them to be playing better at this point. But let's be real. Like, what does having a good tight end do for us? I mean, Darren Waller, since he's came back, has played good football. He's been productive. Waddle is cheaper to keep around the next few years, so we probably keep Waddle, Achane another year. See, Achane, I think Achane's value is super high right now, and he's going to want a new deal. He's going to want a new deal after this year. I understand. Listen, I don't agree that we should have drafted a tight end with our first overall pick. I just don't believe it. Of course, Cap. We're giving up 168 yards a game on the ground. Of course, that's historically bad. But let's take a look at over the cap. All right. So let's say we can find a trade partner for Tua Tagovailoa before the deadline this year. What would that do to our salary cap? Well, trade post 6-1. Submit. That would give us $27 million of cap space this year. And instead of being 11 under next, or 11 over next year, would be 120,000 over or under the salary cap. And then 2027, that'd give us an extra 47. 53. It'd give us extra 53. Undo. Now, obviously, we're talking about next year. Cutting Tua just isn't realistic. We cut Tua pre-June 1st. Cap number is 100. Oh, this is, sorry. Undo. Go to 2026. Cut to a pre 6-1. Submit. That's just, you just can't do it. If you cut Tua before June 1st next year, that makes us $53 million over the salary cap. If you cut him post June 1st, still a huge number. But if you can trade him after June 1st, if you can trade Tua after June 1st next year, only a $13 million cap hit. Now, can you find a trade partner for Tua? I find it highly unlikely, but you never know. I just don't know if you're going to find someone to take on Tua's salary with his injury history and I feel like his overall regression this year. I just don't know if you can find someone to take Tua's contract on. Now, Achane, the only reason you would trade Achane is because you do not want to, you want the draft capital first off. I think the most you're getting for Achane is a second round pick. The only reason you would do the Achane deal is to avoid having to give Achane a huge salary, a huge contract extension, and get some draft capital back. So I mean, a second round pick's valuable, but it's all about if you don't want to pay Achan probably 15, 16, 17 million dollars a year. I believe that's what Achan's going to ask for, especially because how involved he is in the passing game. So if you don't want to give Achan 16, 17 million dollars a year, it would make sense to move on from him. Now I know he has been our most valuable player, our most expensive, our explosive playmaker. He's still very young. I love HN. He's a fan favorite. But does it make sense to possibly move on from HN? It does. It does, especially if we're rebuilding. By the time we're ready to compete, considering Tua's contract and Waddle's contract, and it's probably going to be 2 years from now, it's 3 years from now. And you know, running backs have that shelf life. After 30, they're not as good. Now I think HN will still be under 30 by then, but yeah, HN's only 23. So 2-3 years, he's still 26. But he is an undersized running back. He is. And as much as we use him, how durable is he going to be able to be? He does have a history of injuries. Octane says you take 12 million a year. I don't know if he would. I don't know if he would. I don't think so, Anthony. I think you can get a second, third round. I think at the least you can get a third rounder. I think you can get a second for Devon Achane. All right, let's take a look at Jalen Phillips. Obviously, you would trade Jalen Phillips because he is going to be a free agent after the end of this year. You want to get whatever capital you can get for him, right? Let's go back to 2025. A trade of Jalen Waddle post 6-1, which this would be. Right now we got 1.8 million. Next year we're 11 over. A trade of Jalen Waddle this year would give us another 11 million in dead cap. We'd be 22 million over next year. But it would in 2027. It would in 2027. Shoot. Free up $34 million. So although it would give us 11 more million in dead cap next year, it would free up $34 million in 2027. So again, it would cost us $11 million next year to trade Jalen Waddle this year. Zach Sealer, we just gave him a contract extension. Trading him this year does not make sense. Again, see the number at top, 11 million right now. If we trade him this year, we have 7 million dead cap. But it does free up 21 million for next year. Or 2027. Now, I think 2027 is probably the earliest that we'd have an opportunity to really compete. Right? Because if you go back up here and you go to 2027, you can cut to a maybe 31 million pre 6-1 if you cut them. But if you cut them post 6-1, it's only 13 million in dead cap, which would open up $40 million in 2027. So, I mean, any move that you make, trading away Jalen Waddle, or let's say trading away Jalen Waddle or Zach Sealer or Fitzpatrick or any player like that, it's not going to really do you justice in the cap room area until 2027. And that's probably when we're going to be ready to compete, because that's the year that you can truly move on from Tua without it devastating your salary cap. Because you can make him designate him a post June 1st release and save $40 million in 2027 releasing Tua. Which makes no sense when you have a wide receiver core built for deep routes and big plays. Imagine having a fragile but talented quarterback and not investing in O-line built to protect him at all costs. Thanks, Greer. Well, folks, like, what was it, 2023, 2024? That when were they showing all those videos from training camp with Tua throwing the ball 60 yards in the air? What was that, 2023, 2024? Where Tua was throwing it 60 yards in the air yards? But realistically, guys, and I think it's not discussed enough, I think Tua's regressed this year. And I think Tua's hip is bothering him again. I feel like Tua's arm strength has absolutely taken a hit in the last year. I feel like Tua is, obviously Tua was underthrowing Tyreek at times, underthrowing Jalen Waddle at times, but there were times that he was hitting them in stride. I feel like every pass is underthrown now. I feel like he's just not getting as much velocity on his throws as he used to be. And I think that's because of his mechanics. And I think it's because he's not getting the torque that he was from the hip. I think the hip's bothering him. We can trade guys, get a bunch of picks, and Greer will still blow it. He had 3 firsts and got nothing special. I agree. I think that's why you have to replace Chris Greer. Big C, if we restructure Tua, how much does that open up in cap? I think it's $20 million. I think it's somewhere like $20 million. Say no to trading Waddle nor Hill. If we lose Sunday, we should see what Wilson or Ewers can do. I prefer Ewers. Listen, I get Quinn Ewers maybe, but Zach Wilson, I'm a no-go on Zach Wilson. You think his hip's all right? I mean, he had the mysterious hip injury last year, right? Where they were hush-hush about it, right? Glenn, you haven't noticed that his throws are not as crisp? That every throw is an underthrow now? That O-line is messing with his timing, mechanics, and footwork. Years of bad O-line makes you see ghosts. And I listen, I get that too. Well, Greg, that's where the conspiracy theorists come in and say, that Chris Greer's he knows where the bodies are buried, right? That he has some dirt on Stephen Ross, and that's why Stephen Ross refuses to make the change. The Miami Dolphins front office isn't allowing Tua to work in the offseason, perform or quarterback school, everything he's to be in-house. And the comments are going too fast now. Big C, this was coming from Joe Shad self saying that Ross is not going to fire Greer. He's going to promote him, so I don't think it's going to change. As long as he's not in charge of player personnel, I don't care what job Stephen Ross gives Chris Greer. He doesn't got to get fired. Just don't be in charge of player personnel. Some throws at Tua do at times lack velocity, but happening since last season. Yeah, last season's when he re-hurt the hip, though. And Glenn, he did underthrow passes, but not at the level that he's doing it now. Like, he went to throw a ball away last week, and it didn't even make it to the out of bounds. He couldn't even get it out of bounds. He does not look like the same quarterback that he did. I'm sorry, he just doesn't. And I think it has something to do with the hip. I really do. They were too hush-hush about that hip injury. No details were given out about that hip injury last year. We didn't know when he was going to come back. We didn't know nothing. 2020 to 2023, he was allowed. He improved each year. Is that a fact? He can't. Is that a fact? He can't go and get help from other people? Nope, see the worst. Special teams and the defense lost the game last week. Tua went down and had what should have been a game-winning touchdown drive. I agree. I mean, Tua didn't have the greatest game last week. But you got a lot of fans, and that's the fan base is so split on this Miami Dolphins team. A lot of people say, nope, it was still the offense's fault. The defense got stops. The Miami Dolphins went half the game without getting any points. Tua's interceptions, blah, 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 blah. But they'll ignore the fact that Tua gave them a lead with 45 seconds left. It's still the offense's fault, which, you know, you can't win for losing. This fan base is so, and I'm interested to see once Tua's gone, is this fan base still going to be so split? I've never seen a fan base so split on the football team and so split on their opinions on what's wrong with the football team. Because there's such a large portion that Tua is the only reason this team is bad. Tua is the reason that the offensive line's bad. Tua is the reason that the defense is bad. Tua is the only reason that we're a losing franchise. And then you got others that love Tua so much that Tua does no wrong. And I don't know why people can't just have an open mind and realize, sometimes it's Tua, sometimes it's the offense, sometimes it's the defense. Every game is different. Tua just not big and physical enough to overcome adversity. He may have against Chargers last week and one other game, but it's rare for Tua to overcome big moments against good teams. Well, Greg, good teams typically have good offensive lines and good defensive lines. That's a proven fact. That's a fact. Rodgers sailed over 70 yards. Yeah, Richard, but I know Rodgers is 40 plus years old, But Rodgers has one of the most. He's one of the most special arm talents this league has ever seen. Big C, this impacts us knowing the Jets. They're going to trade out and not draft the quarterback. So would you want to trade up and get a Fernando Mendoza? I mean, I'd have to watch more tape on him, Anthony, to be honest. I'm glad I'm not in charge of drafting because, we give Chris Greer a lot of static, which is deserved, But drafting's not an easy job. It's not an easy job. It's not as clear cut as you'd like to think it is. I mean, Glenn, I understand that Tua did underthrow balls in the past. I just think he's doing it more on a consistent basis now. You don't think Tua's regressed whatsoever? He's not even making the throws that he would routinely make. He would make 199 out of 100 times. He's not even making those throws anymore. There's something wrong with Tua. Baker should be the standard, get something like that. Baker's been very good. Baker's been really, really good. And we could have brought him in. We could have brought him in. We could have brought him in as a backup for Tua. And then who knows where we'd be right now. Maybe Tua doesn't get the contract extension. But the Miami Dolphins didn't want to give Tua Tagovailoa any quarterback competition because they didn't want to hear the fans. They didn't want to create a quarterback controversy. If we don't win on Sunday, you guys okay with no change? No, I'm not. Again, I'll say it a million times. Chris Greer should be fired immediately. I'm all right with Mike McDaniel finishing out the year. I think Mike McDaniel's a decent coach. Does he have his issues? Absolutely. He's not the greatest at making adjustments. His time management is always been questionable. His ability to lead men. But I think he is a smart individual. I think he comes up with some fantastic play concepts. And I think Mike McDaniel will be more successful when he has another opportunity to be a head football coach. Richard, I don't know if Tua can throw the football 50 yards anymore. He used to be able to. That's why I'm saying. I think there's something wrong with that hip. He used to be able to throw it. We've seen videos of him throwing it 60 air yards, literally 60 air yards. And now I question if he can throw it 50 yards. Anthony says, Big C, I blame it on McDaniel. The scheme is so one-dimensional. Teams have been shutting down our passing game and forcing us to run the ball because they know McDaniel doesn't trust it. Well, Anthony, the reason we can't run the ball, though, is on the general manager because he fails to address the offensive line. Know what sucks is this team will win enough games to get us out the top 5 picks. Glenn, I don't think it. I don't think it is. I don't think we win enough games to get out top 5. Mike Jones says Tua is the scapegoat. Tua deserves his fair amount of blame. He does. But some people will lay all the problems on the Miami Dolphins on Tua Tagovailoa, and that's not fair. That's not fair. All you can ask from your quarterback is for you to put you in a position to win the football game, right? You want your quarterback to be able to put you in a position to win a football game. So if your quarterback gives you a lead with 45 seconds left, I don't care how he played the whole rest of the game. When it came to crunch time, and one of the few times he does it, one of the few times in his career he's done it, he drives you down the field, was 8 for 8, and threw what should have been a game-winning touchdown pass with 45 seconds left. How is it to his fault still that we lost? That's where I disagree with certain people. There are a lot of issues on this football team right now. Bonnie says the Cowboys fan base is the same way. Just insert Dak for Tua. I can see that. I can see that. Dak is the only other quarterback that I can really like. Tua and Dak are very similar, is how they're perceived from their fan bases. I think the Dolphins knew Tua's arm was so weak. Remember, he got drafted during COVID. Richard, they had to have known. They had to have known. First off, his tape from Alabama, he wasn't blowing them away with arm strength. And then you suffer a hip injury. Listen, your hips greatly affect your throwing motion. That's where you get the cork to throw the football. Now, I mean, if you're 6'5" like Josh Allen, of course you're just going to be able to whip the ball naturally with arm strength. You ain't got to step in the throws. But a 6-foot quarterback, an undersized quarterback, of course they're going to have to step into it, use their hips, get the torque from their hips. The Miami Dolphins should have never drafted a quarterback in the top 5 that they couldn't visit with, that they couldn't really put on a performance because he was still hurt. He was still hurt. Overall, the team is just not good, but Tua is just not our guy. And it's lost by both sides of the ball. Lenore Sellers, he's a kid I like. Tyreek has been trying to tell you, Uno. Richard, you're going to put a rookie behind the O-line and defense. I like Lenore Sellers. And nope, see, I agree. Tua has let us down a whole bunch. He's let us down a whole bunch. He's let us down a lot. Listen, I want to make the change of general manager. That's first and foremost. Get a new general manager in. Let them evaluate Mike McDaniel for the rest of the year. Let them evaluate this team. If you're going to trade away certain players, do it. I'm all right with keeping everybody. Besides Jalen Phillips, I'd get rid of Jalen Phillips. We're not going to re-sign him. We got Chop Robinson that can get more playing time. Trade away Jalen Phillips. There's no reason to keep him at this point. Get what you can get for him. Hopefully you can get at least a fifth, maybe a fourth. But get a new general manager in here that can evaluate the team, evaluate our team needs, evaluate the coach, and move on from there. We need a new GM and a new coach. It all starts with the general manager, though. Nopsy says John Gruden is the coach that we need. I like his practice videos too. His evaluation of the quarterbacks and stuff. Listen, Nightmare, if you listen, 3 interceptions, first and foremost, the first interception wasn't on him. Second one absolutely was. Third one was kind of meaningless. Yeah, could they have maybe made a crazy play to win the game? Yeah. But he put us ahead with 45 seconds left. I mean, what more do you want him to do? Tua is living off one pass in college. Listen, again, I think Tua could have been successful at one point, but I think the injuries have caught up. I think he has regressed, and at this point, everything needs change. We need to change everything. As far as trading Jalen Waddle and to our Devon Achane, I would say you keep him at this point. Jalen Waddle, although I don't think he's a true number 1 receiver, I just don't think it makes sense financially in what we're going to get in return for him. I just don't think it makes sense. And Devon Achane, he's our number 1 offensive player. He's our number 1 player, period. So if you don't want this fan base to be in an uproar, you keep him also. As far as Jalen Phillips, you trade him because he's on an expiring contract. Get what you can get for him. Bradley Chubb, this season's a wash. I don't think Bradley Chubb's going to be here probably next year neither. So if you want to move on to him and you get a decent offer, by all means. But yeah, that's my take. Hopefully, if we lose to the Cleveland Browns, the sorry-ass Cleveland Browns, in a game where the weather's supposed to be horrible, Cleveland clearly's got the better defense. We're terrible against the run. So there's a good chance that we drop this game to the Cleveland Browns because it's going to be a running football game. Hopefully, this will be Chris Greer's last game as general manager of the Miami Dolphins. And then we can really start evaluating this team. But that's my take. I love y'all. I appreciate you all. And I will talk to y'all later. Until then, fins up. Peace.
Big C and Mike Jones, they call the plays in the zone. Spit facts, no cap, straight to the bone. Gritter, roaring gossip, the field's their home. Huddle up, press play, you're never alone. Sunday sermons, but the church is turf. From Lambeau chills to Miami surf. Quarterback questions, they dissect the worth. Dropping gems like they mine the earth. Laces out, the mic stays hot. Breaking down the game, every yard, every plot. From kickoffs to OT, they never forgot. Tune into the squad, this is the spot. NFL drama, they break it down surgical. Draft day whispers, moves so tactical. Receiver stretching arms, catches vertical. Big C's laugh hitting, vibes so magical. Mike Jones got stats like a human playbook. Big C's insight sharper than a no-look. Halftime debates, better than they should. You fumble the podcast, now you misunderstood. Flags fly, refs blind, penalty stack. They calling out the calls, no sugar, just facts. Fantasy picks, who's carrying the pack? Every week they hit harder than a linebacker smack. Laces out, the mic stays hot. Breaking down the game, every yard, every plot. From kickoffs to OT, they never forgot. Tune into the squad, this the spot. Laces out, the mic stays hot. Breaking down the game, every yard, every plot. From kickoffs to OT, they never forgot. Tune into the squad, this the spot. Sunday sermons, but the church is turf. From Lambeau chills to Miami surf. Quarterback questions, they dissect the worth. Dropping gems like they mine the earth. Laces out, the mic stays hot. Breaking down the game, every yard, every plot. From